everyone. This is the Little Things Podcast. I'm Bethany Warner.
And I'm Rachel Hines.
And we're going to do a special episode today.
You can't even say it without giggling.
No, we don't know how it's going to go.
I think it's going to be exciting. I think this will be the new format.
Rachel and Bethany, hot takes.
I like it. And I think what I like most about it is neither one of us know what's going to come up.
Nope.
It could be anything.
We had a plan for today, and now we're doing something different. So,
well, and I think at the very beginning, our very first podcast, you said one of your concerns was that maybe we were going to say something that would get us canceled.
Maybe
this is it.
Maybe this is it. We've had a good run.
It's been great.
You know, we'll see what happens.
Yes. I'm excited. This silence. This is our hot take. No. Okay. So this is how I think this should go, because I'm all about setting ground rules. I think we should just throw out an idea, talk about it for a little bit, switch to something else. How much time should we give ourselves? I don't even know what time it is right now. We'll look.
It's 1:44.
Okay. So we know we're limited to less than 45 minutes because you've got friendship group to do.
I don't have to do friendship group today.
Oh, well, then here we go. Hot takes.
Watch
hot
out,
takes are on. Okay. Do you have a topic?
Well, right before we were recording, I was telling Rachel about this book that I read. That was pretty wild. It's called Bad Therapy by Abigail Schreier. And it looks at the mental health crisis of our youth today and kind of the culture and the parenting and the education system that has created or fed into that.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating.
So what was have you read the entire book?
When I say read, I mean listen to the audiobook.
I need to do that
roll.
more. Yeah. That's good. I like hearing other people's voices. So I would think I'd enjoy that. So you shared a little bit about, it's talking about how social emotional education, which I believe so much in and has been lacking, but if it's not done correctly,
Right. It can be really harmful.
And damaging. Yeah.
And this is, okay, so I don't know if it's like legal for me to talk about this book. I'm sure it is.
We gave her credit.
Also, we did give her credit, but
and
also
if she's listening, man, we've made it.
I'm going to say some things, but you should read it, and I'm going to paraphrase it the best of my abilities or give my book report in the best of my abilities without having the book in front of me.
I love that.
This is just what I remember. I hope I'm doing it justice. But you should read it / listen to it because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
But yeah, social emotional learning. In schools, this is what the book said.
Okay.
Can empower teachers to act as little counselors in ways that are not helpful to students. And this is maybe more middle school, high school idea. It talked a lot about kids with trauma.
Yeah.
And teachers finding kind of satisfaction or success in getting into those kids' trauma
So more even like, rather than even just social emotion, like digging into mental health, like taking on a role that they're not equipped to fulfill.
Like this child shared with me that their dad is going to jail tonight. He hasn't spoken, and he finally shared this with me, and that's a great success. And it just makes me think, is that really the time or place?
Sure.
So
are you equipped?
Yeah.
As that person? Yeah.
So my husband was doing grad school at UNL, and he's a music teacher, and so this is music education. And again, I hope I'm relaying all these stories correctly.
Welcome to my world.
He shared that they had a class talking about this, and he had all these teachers who were really talking about, getting the emotional connection with those kids and really having those conversations. And the professor kept saying, teaching music is enough.
Yes. Teaching
Music is what we need to be doing to these kids. We cannot solve all of these problems or their mental health problems or their home life or whatever. And I just think as a person who knows people close to me who have experienced trauma.
Yes.
Okay, so what if music class is their escape? What if music class is the one place where
They
they
don't
don't
wanna
have
dig
to
into
be?
that. Yeah.
They don't have to be the kid that's defined by this or has to think about this, but they just get to play their clarinet and they get to be amazing at it. Or and then just thinking like some school counseling stuff or things when done maybe not in the best way. How can you go from having a conversation that digs into your trauma to learning math next hour?
Yeah, for sure.
How could you do that?
And so I think that this is one of our problems as a society is we get these like buzzwords or catchphrases. And even in the world of education, like social emotional, like that phrase, it's huge right now. You hear it everywhere because our kids are deficient in that area. I that's my own opinion, but I think people only hear that word emotional and think, oh, okay, this is delving into trauma. Do you know, doing that kind of stuff when really it's not. Like there's the building blocks of learning. And so when we teach, we use second steps for our social emotional curriculum. And that doesn't look like us going in, okay, so Johnny, your dad left when you were a 1 year old. Like it's no, how do we provide an environment for them to flourish? Like starting, how do you welcome people? Like using those social skills.
Those very basic social skills.
So we're looking at skills, not delving into their psyche and which I'm not equipped to do that. I love social emotional learning, but I'm not equipped to try to unpack somebody's trauma without doing it in a damaging way. I don't think I could even unpack my own trauma.
Right. That's like what made me reflect on what we do, because I do friendship group with third graders and we do a fourth grade version. And like that is just the very basic, how do you play?
Yeah. Yes, teaching skills. And that's what we need to set, like give those building blocks and those skills, but not try to delve into a place that is reserved for a different kind of professional who has that training specifically.
And a more appropriate time and place.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Now, so I really want to be like Bethany, and I really, really want to read all of those books and I have tons of them, and I always start them, but I never finish.
That's why I do
Maybe
audiobooks.
I should. Maybe that's what I need to do.
I mean, it's like a long podcast.
Okay. Maybe that'll be my new thing. Audiobooks where I can gain wisdom. But that sounds fascinating.
It was a really interesting read. One of my other big takeaways was this rumination idea.
Oh, yes. You were talking about this.
Yeah.
This.
So kind of in the maybe social emotional or Rachel's going to get a Kleenex, and she tried to do it in a really stealthy way, but it wasn't. And like kind of that gentle parenting type, or that is constant check-ins with your child of how are you feeling right now and what's going on. And in the book, she was like, okay, if I asked you, how are you feeling right now? And you really felt in your body and everything, how would you answer it? I'm going to ask you this again.
Oh, yes. Okay.
But give me the answer I want.
So if I really stop and think about it, how do I feel right now? Well, I feel very different than I did a few minutes ago. Like, honestly, I'm like very calm right now. That would be my answer. I'm very calm.
That's awesome.
I'm very happy because I'm spending time with my friend Bethany. It's great. I'm doing great.
So let's pretend it was 2 hours ago or whatever.
Yeah.
Or, okay, I'm just thinking for myself, if I actually feel pretty okay right now. But yesterday, I don't know what it was. I just felt really nauseous and I'm really tired. And then, okay, if you just let yourself think of that and then, oh, maybe I have a little headache or maybe I'm just feeling a little down or I just feel a little, I feel like that sometimes, of course. But the idea of those constant check-ins and then that rumination and then you kind of telling yourself that, yeah, I guess I don't really feel good right now or I kind of am feeling down and then kind of
I don't think I can do any of those things I was going to do today because it's an
I could
off
probably
day.
go home and take a nap.
Yeah.
Or I can't talk to this person because I just, I can't, maybe I'm too nervous today. I can't handle confrontation, or I can't, I don't know.
Ooh, that's the spaceship. It's a spaceship landing.
But just the idea of rumination, which is not healthy for anybody
Right.
at any point. So ruminating on your trauma, if you are constantly bringing that up, or ruminating on, I do have anxiety, and then you ruminate on and you let it define you.
Yeah.
Or just ruminating on how am I feeling at every moment of every day really stifles you and doesn't allow you to, actually, I'm fine and I can do it. I can do anything.
Well, and I was sharing that our staff is going through a training called CHIME, Cultivating Healthy, Intentional, Mindful Educators. And so when we talk about being mindful, it's really being present so that I'm focused on you right now. I'm not thinking, oh, I heard that phone ring. So now, oh my goodness, I wonder if I have messages on my answering machine. I wonder if there's a parent that's trying to get a hold, so that I'm being present with you. And especially when you're an educator, that's so important, being present with children. But part of that is, when I check in, if I'm noticing, oh, I'm hot right now. Okay, I notice it, but okay, I'm going to let it go. And there's even like a mindful meditation that we do, and it's like the conveyor belt. You can notice those feelings that you're feeling, but they're not going to take over your life.
It's that
you're gonna
rumination.
Put it, and it's like there's even a visual of, oh, it's like a leaf floating in the river. Okay, I'm noticing that. Yep. Okay, I can see that. Yes, I do feel a little bit, maybe a little anxious. I can notice it, and I'm going to let it go because I don't have to live in that place.
Well, I know for me personally, because my emotions are often very physical.
Yeah.
That's how my body's created too. But okay, I do have a stomachache right now. And if I do ask myself, what am I upset about? Or what am I dreading? Or what am I anxious about? And then I can usually
Identify
it.
and use it as a tool rather than a crutch.
And then I can know, okay, my stomach doesn't really hurt, or I'm fine. I just have to take care of this problem, or I have to, pray about this because I'm nervous about it.
Because this physical sensation help me identify something that I'm maybe not paying attention to and I need to.
But that whole idea of rumination was really interesting to me.
Yes. See, people are so smart.
Yeah.
I like that. And
and it's probably true with anything, that anything good can also be bad.
Yeah.
Can be taken to an extreme or used in.
That's what we do as humans.
Right.
We take everything to the excess and also change it. I have a different word that I want to say, but I don't think it's appropriate. Like not an inappropriate
We've already
word.
sworn on this podcast once.
I know.
Betsy Werner. I'm looking at you.
Poor
We told her we were going to beep it out, but it was never beeped out.
I like how you said we. Remember, I wasn't present on that podcast.
We.
Betsy, it wasn't me. It was only Bethany.
Don't tell her. I think she still thinks it was beeped out.
Okay, she'll never know.
Our
lips are sealed.
Yeah.
No, okay. I think that was a good first hot take.
Okay. That's what I brought to the table.
Well,
what's your hot take?
Well,
Rachel?
you know what? We had an interesting week this week because we had our first. I don't want to say negative conference, but our first conference where there was something less than positive brought up with our child. So,
with your child,
with my not.
I thought you were talking about Messiah. I'm like, maybe you shouldn't talk.
This is the boundary,
too
Rachel.
too hot of a take.
No. We have 4 children, and our children are great children, and conferences are always a joy. And this was not it was something that needed to be brought to our attention, but it was very
Is Lily going to care if you share this story?
I want to share this story, but I won't.
Good.
It's an interesting story. I better not share it because I'll get in big trouble.
Yeah.
But it boiled. So I want to bring discipline.
Ooh, okay.
Let's talk about discipline and consequences. As that could be a whole episode probably in and of itself. So long story short, there was a conversation, a wonderful teacher who, like, one of the questions we always ask, is there anything else we need to know? Because we've told our kids, we value your grades. We want you to work hard. We expect you to do everything you're directed to do at school. That includes homework, whether you want to or not, all these things. But more than anything, when we go to a conference, we're looking at your character and how you treat other people, your teachers and the other students. We want to know that you're kind. We want to know that you're helpful. And this was a different one. This was an inappropriate blurting in class. And it was my poor husband, because I was still at work, so he did it on his own. And we're grateful, for teachers that say, okay, yeah, I'm going to answer that question when you say, is there anything else I need to know about? And you're going to be honest and you're going to share this with us. So discipline, consequences. Do you, when you were raised, what did discipline look like in your household? Discipline is a loaded word, because really discipline is teaching us. It's not the consequence, but.
I mean, when we were little, we were definitely spanked. I mean, not harshly or in a way that was painful, but put in our place,
So with your spanking, because we were also spanked when we were little, but was it reactionary? Did it happen right as you were doing something, or was it more of a part of a broader conversation?
I think it was usually when your dad comes home, or it was usually later.
That's how, looking back, and I look at how my parents handled it, and they said that it was done really well, because it was honestly, it never hurt, because it was very gentle, and because that was what was very common, especially when I was young. But it was all part of a conversation that explained what we had done wrong, why there was a need for a consequence. And so I always, as an adult and as a parent, I really respect the way it was handled. It was never I never felt like I was ever being hit, because it was never reactionary. It was always
I wouldn't
later.
say I was hit either, but and it didn't happen that often, which means when it did happen, it was a
meaningful.
big deal.
Yeah.
And so that was it. I would say, when we were older, consequences taken away, no TV, and that's the big one I can remember.
Yeah. Because that was the motivator for you.
That was a big deal for us. Or no computer then when we were older, because, we just had TV and computer. We didn't have phones or anything like that.
Yeah.
I remember once we had a piano recital that we were not prepared for, and it was so bad and embarrassing. And we lost TV for, I think, 3 weeks. It was a long time. But I didn't misbehave a ton in high school. I never got hugely grounded.
I was pretty much a rule follower. So any consequences I had were usually if I made the choice not to study for something or whatever, not to do my homework, well, then it was usually me going, oh, look at how embarrassing. You just had to get up and give a presentation in front of the class, and you embarrassed yourself because you weren't prepared. And so Daniel is still little, but how have you guys talked about what the area of discipline will look like in your home?
Well, we've just had to start saying no to him, because he likes to get into, he's moving now.
Yeah.
So he likes to go after everything that's not a toy, like the cords and we're moving. So it's just
chaos.
silly.
Yeah.
Everything is everywhere. And I mean, it's better now, but it's not great. But he knows what no means.
Yeah.
And he kind of responds to it.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Yeah.
It's a start. Yeah.
But we've talked about the spanking thing, and we haven't had to, we haven't spanked Daniel, but I don't think that we will be like that. I don't think we need to, but we did the timeout chair. We've done, not with Daniel, but we have, with other children in our home, and that some people are very anti timeout chair, but that worked for us.
Well, and I think that that's one of those big things too, is for every family, when you have that conversation, you make a plan and you can stick to it, because just like when you were saying, telling Daniel no, we all as adults, we need boundaries. I wanted kind of, okay, how are we going to, even though we're doing something totally different and doing hot takes, what is this? What's the expectation of this? What's it going to look like? I mean, we need to know for our security, and especially as little humans that are growing and learning, they need those boundaries. They need
Yeah.
to know what the expectation is. They need to know how far they can take that expectation. And that's what gives them comfort and safety and helps them build trust, I believe. And I always share that I'm the rule follower in the family, definitely. So if I know what the boundary is, I'm going to hold myself to it. I'm going to stay inside of it. My brother was more the boundary pusher, and he'd push those boundaries just because he's like, I need to know that they're not going to move. And if they're starting to move, I need to know they're going to stop. So that's what gives me safety. And I think that that's important. And that's our job as parents to make sure that, okay, we're telling you what we expect. That, no, I love you, Daniel, and you cannot play with a cord because that will hurt you.
There are reasons.
Yeah. And
we are here to keep you safe.
And yeah.
So when I talk about other discipline, I know it sounds confusing, but we have had a girl in our home, and I try not to use her name for privacy reasons and everything. So she still spends time in our house. She does not live with us, but we spend a lot of time with her. And she's 7. So that is different discipline for a 7-year-old than a 1-year-old.
Yeah, for sure.
And she needs very immediate responses. And she tries to push boundaries as everyone does when you're 7. And so we've, when we had her when she was 3, we did the 1, 2, 3, and it was so effective that even today, if I start counting, she responds immediately. And I just kind of chuckle of, I wonder what she thinks is going to happen if I get to 3, because I don't know what I would do.
Yeah.
It used to be timeout chair.
Yeah.
I guess I could put her back on the timeout chair.
Well, and I always say with our kids, because I just remember that wise Haley Jackson when she was here, talking about when you know better, you do better. And I've said many times how parenting Jasmine looked so different than parenting Lily, because it was child number 1 as compared to child number 4. I was not yet in the field of early childhood when Jasmine was little, and then so much that I've learned going through that. So parenting, but one of the things I love that I think is such a great tool is like giving the 2 choices, like for kiddos. And when you do that, you say, okay, your 2 choices are this or this. And it's always got to be a choice that you're okay with. But then, okay, you're not making a choice, so I'm going to make the choice for you, or I'm going to help you. And then of knowing, like our kids' timeout wasn't super effective because they were kind of like me. I think timeout would have never worked for me. Like, okay, Rachel, we want you to sit here and think about, because I love to just sit and think.
Right.
And so it's like,
Sounds
okay,
amazing.
But you also have to, like knowing each child and knowing their motivators. Like what motivates Daniel? What motivates Bethany?
Yeah. and being consistent with that follow through.
Yeah.
Like I remember over COVID, we would go on these tricycle rides in our neighborhood. And I'm like, you can go, but when you hit the curb at the end, you have to stop. You cannot go into the road. And she would. And I'd say, then we have to be picked up. And Michael would come and pick us up.
Good.
And we had to do that a few times.
Yep.
And it was painful and awful. But it worked.
Yeah. Well, and it teaches so many things. Okay, this is a boundary for your safety. I'm telling you, you can't go past there because I want you to be safe. I love you. You're reassuring. I really care about you. I'm not going to let you get hurt. But then also when I say something, when I give you a boundary, we're not going to, not this time. It's not wishy-washy. It's going to be, and even, okay, well, they held to it that first time. Maybe this time it's going to move.
What is she going to do this time?
Yeah.
And that's hard.
But it builds so much security and trust in little people. And I think sometimes we don't want to be that bad, bad parent that they don't like because they're going to get mad at us but it's so important in giving them that security that they need so badly.
And like you said, choices that you are okay with.
Yep.
So like going to the zoo and, okay, you have to stand by me.
Yep.
If you don't stand by me, only say, then we have to leave if you're really going to leave.
Yes.
Because if you don't leave,
sure.
then that doesn't mean anything.
You can choose to stand right next to me and stay with me, or you can choose to hold my hand if you can't do that on your own. And if you can't do either one of those, we can't be here anymore. Yeah. And okay, then my day at the zoo is done, and I know I might have a child throwing a tantrum on the way out, but we're going to do this because this is what we
worth
said.
It.
Yeah. And it's, all those.
Even though it's hard.
Parenting is hard.
It is.
It's hard. Well, and like the screens now, I mean, really, that's probably, as we look at consequences, there's all the different kinds of consequences, the natural consequences that happen when we don't follow a safety rule or something. And then sometimes as a parent, you're like, okay, that was a sufficient consequence, but we're going to talk about why that happened. And then the consequences that we come up with. And sometimes like the incident that happened in school.
So what are your consequences for middle school kids?
Well, and it's so tricky because each child is so different. I think consequences for Lily will look completely different than they did for Brady because they have different motivators, and what we would have used for him as a consequence might not have the same effect on Lily. But so the first thing, I mean, we talk about, okay, what you did was disrespectful to your teacher who's leading a class. And when you make a comment that distracts the rest of the class, that's stealing from your class and from your teacher. And how are we going to repair that? What do you have to do? You have to apologize for doing that. But also, I want you to recognize that the comment you made was, and it's not, Lily's delightful, and it was very minor. But in the scheme of things, you can't, even the minor things you have to pay attention to. And there's some major in the minor. But so we made her write a letter, which, knowing her, she does not like to make mistakes and does not like to be called out on it. So not only did she have to write that, but she had to hand deliver it. And I said, and I will make sure, I need to be able to trust that you did what you were told. So if you can't confirm to me that you can deliver this, I saw that you wrote it, I read the letter, I want to know that it got in your teacher's hand. If I can't trust that you did that, I am going to call him and I'm going to make sure it got in his hands. Mom, that's so embarrassing. But I want you to know I'm serious and that this means something, that you making this right and repairing this relationship is super important. And hopefully it's enough that, like, my gut is it was done because at that age you want people to like you and you want attention. And so that garners a lot of attention. Maybe the motivator of having that attention is not so great anymore when you have to have this follow-up and it's kind of embarrassing and you have to really recognize the effect of this. So I don't know.
Go, Rachel. Well, I guarantee you she's going to remember that.
She's going to remember it. Now, whether it solves it, I think there'll still be a lot of lessons to learn in the future, right?
Oh, yeah.
Always. Again, discipline, we're called to teach our children and
So this is the word I've been using lately too, because I stole it from someone else, that I am correcting you. And it is my job as a grown-up to correct you. Yeah. Because you're still learning. Yeah. And I'm still learning and I'm a grown-up, but that's why, we're here to correct you.
Well, and I think even using adults as an example, like I rely on my friends, I rely on you. Like if there's an area in my life, if you're watching, maybe I'm interacting with my staff and you see something, and I hope this never happens, but, and I expect as my friend, you'll come up and say, Rachel, I love you. And I love what you do, but I witnessed this and I really need to, pull it to your attention.
Well,
that's
I
not
just
the word.
think between me and my husband, like how often am I going off and Michael's like, well, maybe this perspective, like, darn it.
Let me redirect you as an adult.
You're probably right.
Yeah. And God does that.
Like we need that.
Through his word all the time. And that's so important. And I think we go through these stages in culture and society, everything, where we kind of draw away because we don't want to be that person that does that as a parent. I don't know. And I think we've kind of been in that season for a while. And that's where we see some...
Okay, so this book, the same book, talked about, one of the phrases they used was, well, I don't know. Again, you should read it. Not, this is my paraphrase.
And the author is listening going, that is not a phrase I use, but I like it. I'm using it in my next book.
Or at least this is what I've thought about since reading the book. Yep. I see, and maybe, what do you think, such a lack of that fear and respect, appropriate fear and respect. Between children and adults.
Right.
Not just when they're little, but I've recently been moved to more helping oversee the middle school until we have a replacement. And just, just a complete, I would have been mortified to disrespect an adult when I was
Yeah.
like, I don't see that anymore.
Right.
And this author did say in the book, I don't know what she talked about that, but we as parents are afraid of our kids instead of our kids being afraid of us.
Yeah. Well, and I think when we hear the word like fear or afraid, it's like negative. Like we think, oh my gosh, like,
well, the
your
same
mind
with the
goes to,
Ten
like,
Commandments.
yes,
Fear and love God. What does that fear mean? There has to be a good reverence, a good respect.
Because there has to be boundaries around us because we're sinful creatures, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we have to live in a world of boundaries because we don't, our self-control is terrible. And so we have to have that guideline. So this is what I always think about. And I don't want to create excuses all the time for our world, but we watch on social media on all these reels and different things. That's about as cool as I don't know.
I know.
I was trying to think of the other terms that other things might use, and I don't know. Reels is the only one I know. But people fighting. That's a popular one, right? Like,
really?
I've never seen them because it wouldn't pop up on my feed, but I hear about like that. Oh yeah, they're recording fights and, like in middle school.
Like instead of people stepping in,
they're recording.
Yeah.
And this is like entertainment now. Or you see like making fun of people, whether it's young or old. Like it's become entertainment. So then when we as adults even see that, or our children see that kind of behavior, or if you watch it, I don't want to throw a company under the bus because since our listenership is so huge,
vast.
If I talk about a television, is it even television, streaming, whatever. But if you watch a show that's aimed for tweens, all they do is yell at each other. They make fun of each other. They like it's so negative that's the culture that we've created is one of a lack of complete respect. And the adult is, and I mean, you go back, watch Leave It to Beaver or any of those, and there's probably some of that as well. But it's so pervasive.
It's so interesting because I remember when I was growing up and the Disney Channel was a thing.
I wasn't going to say Disney, but there
oops.
you go. I just kidding.
A popular cable.
I don't know. Nobody listens.
Yeah, nobody listens. But I remember my mom being like, "Those kids are so disrespectful to their parents," and I'm like, "Whatever." But now, as an adult watching those things, it is like, "Oh, that makes me sad."
Yeah. Well, and I don't know. There was way back when on Nickelodeon, we didn't have cable, so we didn't see it. But when we would go to my grandparents' house, there was You Can't Do That on Television was the big Nickelodeon show where they slimed people. And there was like boogers but we were not allowed to watch it because it was so, and now I'm curious. I've not seen, I don't even know if they do reruns or anything like that, but it would be really interesting to see an episode. And I think I would be like, oh my gosh, this is so tame compared to just a normal show that's on TV now. But yeah, interesting. Okay, my hot take was a lot longer than yours. Look at that.
That's
Sorry. Okay,
no, it's good.
Throw out another one.
Let's see.
What pops into your mind
for a hot take
or anything?
Well, this
could just be like popcorn. We should have called it popcorn.
Popcorn. Popcorn pops because it's hot.
I know. Yeah. See, look at. Oh my goodness, you're so wise and
this
smart.
Is not at all in whatever.
Maybe this is just a fun
about
one.
Nickelodeon. I just watched a documentary on the Discovery Channel documentary thing through Prime. Quiet on Set, all about the children actors and sexual abuse and awful stuff.
I know, isn't it's so scary?
And talking about those shows were very much same what we're talking about of disrespect towards parents and authority and everything. And then what was going on in the set is people abusing their authority and the children,
yes.
you know?
Yeah.
But that separation between kids and parents is kind of what the show teaches.
Yeah.
Don't trust your parents. Your parents are dumb. But then these adults then taking advantage of those vulnerable children.
When they don't have that protector there.
Oh. Gross.
It is gross. And gosh, it just makes you just want to love on your kids and and I've never been like that tabloid. I don't think they even have tabloids anymore, but like even that news, like I don't really watch the news very much anymore because it's like too much in my heart. Honestly, that sounds like a really lazy woman's answer, but I can't take it in. But I always try to read a little bit of news in the morning. And then so I get on the news page that comes up on my browser, and I make it about one news story down, and then it's all sensationalism, like from with the actors, actresses, all those things. But then I think, oh my goodness, what, we've created them to be idols, really, and what kind of lives, what goes on, what kind of trauma do they have that we have no idea, we can't see, and abuse, whether it's by another person or with drugs and alcohol,
And why do so many of these child stars turn to alcohol and drugs? Because of probably the abuse and trauma that they experience. Anyways, we don't have to talk about that. But it was a really interesting documentary. Because
you're really good at hot takes.
But they're shows that I watched when I was growing up.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's so sad to think of what's happening behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, and then when you see our kiddos that idolize these people, and then how do you have that conversation with them about what you see is not always what's true, just like anything. And if you do have that conversation, how do you do it in a safe way, but also helps kind of take some of that sparkle off things that have more sparkle than they really should.
Well, this is what my mom's voice says in my head, which I know I've told you this, but I don't know if this is what Eileen wants to be remembered by, this quote. But I remember when we were growing up, we didn't have a ton of money. My mom's a teacher, my dad's a pastor.
Sure.
And we were never, without, but I had friends who had a lot more money. Or just people or maybe it's celebrities or more it's, whatever. And my mom would say, yeah, but are they happy?
Yeah.
Which maybe they are.
Yeah.
But what makes them happy is not that. And you can look at the Instagram stars or the Disney Channel TV show kids that I wanted to be
go,
but are they happy?
Yeah. Are they happy?
Some really aren't.
Well, and it comes back to so much of what we do. We're trying to find our identity and we're looking
for value and worth.
Oh yeah. And we're just digging and digging and doing. And our identity, we already know where our identity is found, and it's in Christ, and we keep looking for it elsewhere. And something that we make so hard as adults is so simple. Like, we know my identity is found in Christ. Like, He's redeemed me. I'm His. I'm who He said I am. Not anybody else. But how do I teach that to my child when I struggle with that so much? And when there are 89 different things as we walk through the store that are trying to tell us, this is how you're going to find your identity. Like, if you do this, this is who you're,
this will make you happy.
Yeah.
But what does make you?
Yep.
And that joy
comes
just from Christ.
Yep. Man. Good stuff.
Not from childhood fame.
So
in case you're wondering, I'm not going to be putting Daniel out into the industry.
Into the modeling world.
Because he could. He's the cutest baby ever.
You know what? He could, what is it? I was just going to say something and sound really dumb because I am not, is it EGOT? Is that when you get, see, look at that. Maybe I'm smarter than I think. I don't give myself enough credit.
He could do anything. He could do anything.
He could do anything.
He can't quite walk yet, but he's getting there.
Because he's so busy focusing on so many other things. Okay, let's end with a hot take that's not such a hot take. But I shared a while ago, and I think this is something we need to do a full podcast on because I feel very strongly about it. I shared a podcast with you and my friend Allie, who I know both have kind of similar ideas to me, but it was with...
This is a hot take.
Oh, it is, and it's a good one. But the woman that created 1,000 Hours Outside with children. So have you listened to the podcast, right? And she's... Talk about radical. Yeah. She's kind of talking about like even school, taking some pretty strong stances on how much time our children need to be in school. But her real big thing is she talks about when her children are little. And again, you are better at paraphrasing than I am. So if I apologize, I don't even remember the woman's name. I should. I don't either. I can look it up. But she was talking about her kids, like they were all on the struggle bus And then they started just spending time outside
Yes.
and going to a park, not even packing things, maybe a snack, but letting the kids explore. And she believes children need to be outside 4 to 6 hours a day.
I know. I told my mom that,
Yeah.
that's going to be our goal.
Yes.
She's like, maybe just start with 1 hour. But it's a lot
But
easier
1 hour is better than
you
none.
think.
Yeah.
Or I think it sounds really daunting, but and when the weather has not been great, obviously
It's harder.
we've not been outside.
Sure.
But any nice day, I've been making that a priority to the point where like let's even start at 3:30 and I'll finish working in the evenings because I want to. This is such valuable time for
Yes.
Daniel and but for me too. It makes me so much happier.
Well, and that's one of the things I believe she mentioned in the podcast was she was saying, I wanted it for my children. And then I realized, oh my goodness, this is doing wonders for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was helpful for the whole family. And it just became now a way of life for them.
Yeah. So that's a book I have not read, that 1,000 Hours Outside.
I haven't. So I think it was actually, I think she's just written a book, like
Yeah, I
her
think you're
very
right.
first book, but I think it was more just like a internet thing. Like she created, and I think the website is like 1,000 Hours Outside, but really talking about how, and we know that, I mean, we know that looking at nature, even if you're not in nature, calms you, like has that calming effect for hours. But I laugh because I see all this stuff about grounding sheets. You can get grounding sheets that replicate because we don't put our bodies outside on the ground and are barefoot. And I don't know.
Yeah,
God.
you can Google 1,000 Hours Outside and there's a whole website about it and tracking system and everything. So did I tell you this? Shortly after I listened to that podcast, I'm like, we're doing it. And so we bundled Danny out and we got everybody outside. And Michael was riding, or they were rollerblading around.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with Daniel and just watching him put his little feet in the dirt and then playing with the grass and everything. And then he was picking up some dirt. I'm like, oh, that's fine. But then he was picking up something else.
Was it
and
dog
he was
poop?
putting it to his mouth. No, it was dog poop. I really don't think it got in his mouth.
Every child needs to do that at least
Oh
once.
gosh, it was enough to be like, I gotta go. I have to leave, and I'm not gonna think about this. It's okay. That was a little too much nature for me.
But just think about, so even down in the grass, like all the different things that he was exposed to that help build his immune system, but the sensory of like feeling the grass, that's a very different.
Yeah.
I mean, he got so much for his little brain and his little body, and
It's
that
good for him.
even dog poop has probably a different feel to it.
It was
Especially if it's been
dried.
sitting there all winter.
Yeah, it was not.
It was frozen.
So I
It
went
was
to the
fine.
doctor for his 1-year appointment, and they ask you questions about lead poisoning.
Oh yeah.
And they asked, have you noticed Daniel chewing on paint chips? And I said no. Or eating dirt. And I said yes to that because he has been, but he doesn't have lead poisoning.
It's small amounts of,
You know,
but yeah. So outside, I think
I love
that's-
it. I'm pro outside.
I love being outside, but I am also very opposed to cold. So
know.
this is a terrible time of year for me because I have to force myself to go outside, and it's usually I like to take out the trash. But then I'm like, you're not cold. You're not going to ruminate on this.
Not going to ruminate.
You
I'm
are
gonna
not
feel
cold.
it, and I'm going to let it go.
As I'm sitting here with my coffee cup and my coat on inside, and trying not to look like a fool because
You are bundled.
I'm way too chilly. Yep. Yeah. So so one more thing about being outside. So Amy, that is one of our teachers, she shared she used to work for an eye doctor. And again, I'm going to say what she said, but I probably am saying it wrong. But she was talking about how so many more children are nearsighted because of not looking far off. Like when you're playing outside, you're looking far away and your eyes have to focus back and forth. And Amy, I apologize if I'm mangling what you said, but it basically comes down to we're causing problems with our own eyes because we're not forcing them. If we're looking at a screen close up and just looking close, we're not having to focus our eyes in different ways and build those muscles and
That's insane.
whatever. Yeah. So many good things from being outside. So that, not a super hot take, but something that I think is
Pro.
worthy of maybe we need there's some really great educators in Lincoln that are all about Like, how can we take education outside? How can we create experiences for our children? Or even better yet, do we need to?
Right.
Or just provide and let them create on their own?
That's another thing that this book talked about was over programming our children.
Yeah.
And over adult-led activities.
Yeah. Just let them explore. Let their little creative brains do what they need to do. Yeah. Very nice.
Well, this was fun, Rachel.
I think it was successful. It wasn't as sweaty as we thought it would be. No.
I don't think we're going to get canceled.
And man, what if we bump Kate Middleton off the front page?
Oh, poor Kate Middleton.
I know. That was a hot take in and of itself.
I know.
Too bad we're out of time.
All right. Thanks for listening. This has been a Messiah Lutheran Ministry production. Subscribe to Messiah Lutheran on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can also find our worship services and our Sermon Extra podcast by searching Messiah Lincoln on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our content. If you'd like to know more about Messiah Ministries, visit messiah.us. We'd love to hear from you as well, so please email us at littlethings@messiah.us.